Hello there guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about ambiverts, life between extraversion and introversion. If you are curious, stay tuned and let's hop into the rest of the video. Hi, welcome back you guys. My name is Greta. For those of you who are new here, I run a blog called greta.com and I'm here on YouTube as well. And on my channel I basically talk about personal growth, spirituality, holistic living and so much more. So many other topics that interest me and you guys, my community. So today, as already mentioned, we're going to be talking about ambiverts. And I don't know if I've been living under a rock.
Yes, you have.
No.
What the hell is going on? But I only recently came to know that there is such a thing as an ambivert. Basically, a person who is not an introvert, they're not an extrovert, but they're basically in between and they possess qualities of both an introvert and an extrovert. So if on some days you feel like you want to give a TED talk and you feel super extroverted, and then the next day you're kind of like, you know, I just would rather spend time alone or in a small group or whatever. If you just tend to fluctuate between the two and you never fully identified as an extrovert or an introvert and it just doesn't feel right, honey, you may be an ambivert. And this is what I struggled as well for years. Not that it is a struggle, like a real struggle, but I feel like sometimes these labels, they are freeing. To be honest, they're not always necessary, but sometimes they do kind of give you the upper hand and they basically help you get to know yourself. Does that make sense? So first of all, let's just kind of establish, I know that probably most of you guys know like what's the difference between extroverts and introverts, but basically an extroverted person is somebody who's very talkative, very sociable. Those people tend to enjoy going out and being surrounded by people, meeting new faces, taking center stage, being the life of the party, that kind of stuff. And introverts are usually people who prefer smaller groups, they prefer spending time alone, they get drained when going out to the city, like bars, pubs, all of that jazz. They're very, I would say, much in like their thoughts, and those people tend to be huge empaths, sensitive people, and that's just kind of the nature of it. Both sides of the spectrum are absolutely great, and I do believe that both extroverts and introverts, they possess so many amazing qualities and struggles as well. But basically, an ambivert is somebody who falls right in the middle. So you do possess qualities that tend to be more on the extroverted side of the spectrum, but you possess qualities that are kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum as well. So an ambivert is gonna show those qualities depending on their mood, on the circumstances, depending on their values, beliefs, and just depending on the situation, basically. For me, throughout my entire life, I really struggled to identify with extroversion. Yeah, extraversion. I failed to identify with extraversion, and introversion, I kind of like was going back and forth between the two. And as already mentioned, I know that it's not a real struggle. It didn't keep me up at night.
You watched me cry myself to sleep for months and months, and you never said anything.
But it did bother me a little bit because it just felt like I didn't know myself well enough. Like, how can you not know if you are an extrovert or an introvert? Like, you must know what you prefer. And that kind of bothered me. And as I said, like labels, as long as you're comfortable with them, as long as they're not putting you in this uncomfortable box, sometimes they tend to be freeing as well, and they help us understand more about ourselves. So when I was younger, I remember I acknowledged the fact that I was good with people. I was good at presentations. I didn't particularly enjoy taking center stage to the point where I was like, yeah, give me every single opportunity. But I didn't have a problem with it. And because of that, I remember when I was writing my first CV, I put like, I'm an extrovert in a very proud way. And I was like, for sure, I'm an extrovert. But then a few years down the line, I started noticing that I am actually very different from a typical extroverted person. I tend to find a lot of happiness in being alone, in just having a good read. I started preferring going out to just like simpler places like bars, pubs, but not really a clubbing scene. But at the same time, I loved festivals. But at the same time, I preferred to just stay at home and have my closest friends. I was getting drained very easily. And then again, it could possibly be because I am an empath and I am a highly sensitive person. So that affects me as well. But just throughout my life, I was very confused. I was like, okay, so this is happening, then this is happening, and it's just like so out of whack. And obviously, you don't have to be a typical extrovert or introvert. There are so many different personalities, there are so many different people, but as long as you identify with one of the sides, you kind of know what you tend to do, how you tend to behave. For me, it was always like, I'm so confused. So recently, not too long ago, I actually came to know that there are people called ambiverts. And it was like, aha, yes, it just made so much sense. Every single thing that I read about ambiverts, it was just like, yes, this is me. So now I want to talk about possible signs that could signify that you might be an ambivert. So the first and the most kind of
5 minutes later.
Obvious, that's the word. Yeah, the first and kind of obvious sign is the fact that you identify with both. You find yourself to be somewhere in the middle between extraversion and introversion, and you just intuitively feel that. Now, the second thing that you will notice with yourself is that social interactions and going out, those things fuel you, but they do have to be limited. You have to basically balance it all out. Sometimes you prefer to go out rather than to stay in, and you do enjoy meeting new faces, you do enjoy interacting, you're occasionally even like the life of the party, but then sometimes you just want to be alone, you just want to have a good read, you want to stay in, you sometimes even might have social anxiety, which is like, yesterday you were the life of the party and today you're just like, oh my god, I cannot deal with people. So I think that is one of the most obvious signs as well, is that your social interactions kind of fall somewhere in between. You're not really an extrovert, but you're not really an introvert as well. Now, another sign maybe is that you're both a great lead and a great support. So depending on the situation, you are able to lead people, you are able to take center stage, and you don't have a problem with that. But then other times, if you have to kind of lurk in the shadows, stay in the shadows, and let somebody else deal with the situation, or even take all of the attention and have all of their eyes, all of other people's eyes on them, you're okay with that. It's not like you want to always be backstage, but it's not like you always want to be the main character. You know what I'm saying?
Which one do you want to be? I prefer to be Ruth, but I'm flexible.
So it's kind of something in between. You don't have a problem being there, taking center stage, and you don't have a problem being the backup. Now, the third sign, or kind of the fourth sign, probably could be the fact that people really get confused by your moods. And by that I mean is that people often ask you, are you okay? You seem quiet. And that is something that happens to me with people that don't know me very well. And I still get these questions even from like my friends and family, very rarely, but it does happen. But it's just because as an ambiverted person, you may be very sociable, very talkative one day, and then another day, everything is okay. You're not, you know, your mood didn't change, like everything, you feel yourself, but you just become quiet. You just maybe don't have the same levels of energy. You still feel happy, you still feel completely yourself, but you're just way quieter, and other people talk not too much, but sometimes probably too much as well. But other people talk way more than you, and you just kind of seem to be there as a plant, just giving your 2 cents here and there. And yesterday you were all like, yo, you know, amigos, let's go to, I don't know, where do amigos go? LA? Let's go get Chipotle, like, I don't know. This is so random.
What is going on?
But basically, yeah, people get confused by your mood swings, which are not actually mood swings. You just become quiet because you tend to fluctuate between 2 sides of the spectrum. Yeah. Now, another sign also could be the fact that everything interests you and it's kind of overwhelming. And this is what I noticed again with myself 100%. You take interest in so many things, like everything seems to be interesting. You literally want to try everything, and it just kind of can get very overwhelming. It just feels like sometimes you just don't know what option to choose, you don't know what to grab, and it almost feels like you just want to live in like 5 different realities, have 5 different careers, and have way more than 24 hours in a day. And it for sure causes a lot of struggles as well, but we're gonna talk about struggles a little bit later. But this kind of not being able to choose and kind of lacking direction, it causes a lot of indecision, and indecisiveness is definitely one of the struggles, but we're going to be talking about that a little bit later. Now, another sign is that you are able to have many different perspectives, and you are a great negotiator as well. So basically it kind of comes from that empathetic side as well, the fact that you're able to relate kind of to both sides of the spectrum. You are able to listen to people and have fruitful conversations. You're able to relate and kind of put yourself into other people's shoes, and that basically gives you amazing negotiation skills as well. And in essence, that simply means that you know when to speak up and when to shut up, because, well, honestly, sometimes we do need to shut up for our own sanity or for other people's sanity as well. And the last sign that I will include in this video is your tendency to observe first and then make your move, if I'm putting it into like the right words. But basically, you tend to observe new situations and new people before you actually go with like, look at me. Especially if you're thrown into a new team in a workplace, or if you're meeting a bunch of new faces, you may seem totally introverted and totally quiet right at the beginning, and people may think that you're kind of shy, kind of introverted, or just don't speak as much. But then once you kind of observe, you get yourself a little bit more situated and comfortable, you literally like, bang, look at me, and you can flip and just show them your completely extroverted side in like a day or 2. Really depends on the situation. But this is what I noticed with me, and I noticed with other people that kind of tend to show both sides of the spectrum in their life, the extraversion and introversion. Now let's talk about the strengths. So I already talked about like the possible signs, which also you could already see what would be like possible strengths of an ambivert, but obviously the very first one is the flexibility. You're quite flexible, you're able to adapt to many different personalities and many different people as an ambivert. You are probably somebody who loves to do different things and take different activities, and you basically keep things interesting in your relationships. And as already mentioned, if you need to take center stage, you're able to do that. If you need to just act as a backup, you're able to do that. You don't have to be in other people's faces. You're not very timid as well. It's just like you bend and you're just basically super flexible. Although naturally I'm not very flexible, so thank God I was given this personality flexibility. Oh, and that also means that your friend circle could be quite colorful. I noticed that in my life, my friends tend to be, they're quite different. I mean, we still share like the same values, like the core belief systems, but they're quite different. It can be quite colorful. Now, another strength of an ambivert is their empathy and intuition, basically. As an ambivert, I would say most ambiverts are empathetic and very intuitive people. So that kind of helps them to read situations, to read people, to understand, as already mentioned, when to shut up, when to speak up. It helps you to kind of keep your tact skills very sharp and know when to do what. I feel like ambiverts have a very good sense of intuition. They trust their gut and they like to go with their gut feeling rather than being maybe logical, although obviously you have to trust your heart and your logic, and you kind of have to balance it out. But intuition and empathy and just being able to kind of relate to a lot of different people and being able to have different perspectives and just kind of see the situation from the bird's eye view, it gives you a very huge advantage. And if you are an ambivert, that is definitely something that you should be proud of. And this obviously manifests itself in the spiritual world as well. People who are ambiverts, they tend to be amazing healers, amazing mediums, so that is something that you should take into account as well if you are an ambivert. And two other strengths are they're great listeners. Ambiverts are great listeners, and they're great leaders as well. So ambiverts, usually they are able to, give the path to another person if they just want to let it out, if they want to be listened to, they're able to listen to other people without needing to kind of put their own 2 cents, I would say, in a very unnecessary way. But then if there's awkward silence, or the person sees that the other person is kind of shy, then the ambivert is going to be the one to break the ice, so to speak. So they kind of have a good balance between listening and speaking. Again, this is about knowing when to do it and having great tact skills. And now when it comes to leaders, I really have met some of the greatest leaders and managers throughout my career that could fall under the ambiverted category. What I feel like these people are so good at, they know how to lead, but they know when they have to be led by other people as well. They have no problem saying sorry. They have no problem letting somebody else do the job. They have no problem, leading their team when the team needs to be led, when the team is like, man, what are we supposed to do? Nobody knows what to do.
Yeah, you got that right.
So they have a very good balance. They are not bossy. They lead people in a very amazing, empathetic, and sensitive way. And obviously you don't have to be ambiverted, but I feel like for an ambivert, this is a natural gift, I would say. Now, talking about struggles, I already kind of talked a little bit about this, but number one struggle is indecision. I struggle with this. This is a massive, massive problem. Even with small decisions, sometimes you are able to see the pros and the cons in both options, and it's just impossible to make a decision. And what has helped me a lot is just giving myself 3 seconds. So just basically I use this 3-second rule. When it counts to 3 and I just choose, and I'm not able to go back and, change my mind. Whichever the decision, is it gonna turn out to be the best one or not? It's fine. I just drop it and I don't worry about it. It's a very hard thing for me to do, but I feel like it's one of those exercises and one of those muscles that you really have to train if you are a person who suffers from indecision. And this is definitely prominent in, small decisions, in big decisions. It really stresses you out. And you can see this as well if let's say an ambiverted person says, oh, I want to go out tonight, like let's do this, like I want to go to a rave party, I don't know. And then 5 hours later you're just like, I'm dreading my decision. Like you just change your mind, maybe the mood changes, something changes, and you just like flip and you're like, oh my god, I would just rather stay in and read a good book. Now another struggle, which is kind of related to indecision, it's the lack of direction and struggling to like kind of find your purpose or losing your purpose. And again, this relates to the fact that ambiverted people are interested in so many things and they're balanced, but that balance comes with the cost. So basically, most of the time you're gonna feel like, I want to try this and I want to try that, and you just struggle to choose. You're gonna feel a little bit, not a little bit, but sometimes even very much stressed out about making particular decisions or kind of deciding even what to do with your career, and that might affect your sense of purpose. And the third struggle, which again kind of ties very beautifully within like the lack of purpose and indecision, and it's the overthinking. Whatever like happened in the past, if you're an ambivert, you're gonna overthink it. Whatever you need to decide for the future, you're gonna overthink it. You're gonna overthink everything.
Now I'm getting gun shy, I'm overthinking it.
Basically. And I feel like with whatever happened in the past, you just have to kind of let go and really practice surrender and just acceptance. You learn your lesson and you move on. That's it, it's done. And for future decisions, obviously, as I already mentioned, if it's a small decision, don't overthink it, just make it like this, and that's it, just forget about it. It's hard, I know, but just do it. And if it's a big decision, just trust your gut. Obviously, use your head as well, but trust your gut, trust your judgment, really train your confidence, I would say. Be confident in your judgment, be confident in your decisions, and just be like, okay, I decided this, those options also seem suitable, but I'm not gonna look at them.
Leave me alone, snake!
Sometimes, at least in my life personally, it really gets out of control where it just stresses me out to such an extent that it just isn't productive anymore, and it's not making sense for me, it's not making sense for other people, and I'm just wasting my time and I'm wasting other people's time. So these are kind of the struggles that an ambivert might have. Now, I found, and I would actually kind of agree with this, there are people who are called social introverts or hypersensitive extroverts. I could see how they could possibly be called ambiverts as well, because they do share certain qualities of an ambivert as well. Now for me, I kind of feel like if you're struggling to understand if you're actually an ambivert or are you just, let's say, a social introvert, just notice your tendencies, because you're still gonna, kind of lean towards one side of the spectrum a little bit more. And it's okay if you cannot decide, it's just a label. If you don't need it, don't even bother. If you do want to kind of understand, are you an extrovert, introvert, ambivert, as I said, just kind of start learning more about yourself. establish a conversation with yourself in a physical and mental and spiritual way, and eventually you're gonna start noticing patterns, you're gonna start noticing tendencies, and you're gonna be like, okay, I kind of feel like I might be more of an extrovert, but because I am an empath, you know, this and this and this and this happens, and it kind of affects me in a different way, and I'm not a typical extrovert, you know. So you don't have to be a typical extrovert, you don't have to be a typical introvert, you don't even have to relate to being an ambivert, but the only person that can actually make a decision, and the only person that can actually tell you, oh, you know, you're this or that, it's you. So basically, don't even worry whatever the heck everyone else is saying, just notice it for yourself and make a decision for yourself, and only you are able to make that decision, basically. So I hope that you guys found this video interesting. Again, I really wanted to make this video short, but I struggle with these shorts. Oh my god, like, I really try to make these videos short, but they just go on and go on and go on and go on forever. So I really hope that you at least enjoy the things that I'm putting out. So thank you so much, guys. I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. I love you. Have a lovely day, have a lovely weekend, have a lovely upcoming week whenever you're watching this. Love you guys, and see you in my next video.